This is the Wait For It podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wait For It podcast. I'm your co-host Phil Barrera, aka Phil the Filipino.
And I'm your other co-host, Mr. Eric Almighty. And we are entering a very special month, Patreon month, where patrons of the show are selecting different forms of media, entertainment, and games for us to consume and talk about. So for this edition of Late to the Party, we are going to be talking about Halo 4, Forward Unto Dawn.
Yeah, it's all about the Weight Watchers here this month, so if you are interested in maybe giving us some suggestions when we do this again in the future, stick around to the very end. We'll let you know where you can join this very, very fun community and growing community, might I say. So we'll let you know all about that at the end of the episode. But yeah, Eric, I'm trying to put myself back in the shoes of a Halo fan, right? Back in 2012, Halo 4 really kind of marked the beginning of where we jumped off the Halo train, right? So this came out, I knew of it, but I had not watched it until we did this episode. So excited to talk about this, and hopefully, Briar, we don't let you down. This is his second recommendation for us, and the last one didn't go so well. So if you want to know how we felt about Porco Rosso, check that episode out. But let's jump into Halo 4, Forward Unto Dawn. Letterbox'd Synopsis: UNSC Cadet Thomas Lasky must conquer his inner fears and join forces with Super Soldier John 117 to take down a massive faction of the Covenant. Eric, I want to do this episode a little bit differently than we typically do when we talk about movies. We talk about likes, then we talk about dislikes. We really have to break this into first half and second half, maybe even like first 3/4 and last quarter when it comes to Forward Unto Dawn. So I want to preface the conversation by starting it off like that. But for you said you watched this when it had originally come out, correct?
I did. So I actually watched this as it was released, which was in 5 separate 15-minute segments or web series on YouTube, and that is how I consumed it. Phil, you talked a little bit. The only thing I really knew was that you had finished it and you were like, thank God that this was all put together in one place, because maybe your experience would have been different. For me, I mean, 2012 was over a decade ago, so totally different vibes, sense of time, and consuming content. It worked for me. And honestly, it was a fond memory that I was worried would become tarnished as I rewatched it in preparation for this episode. Luckily, it didn't quite hit that fear. But, we're going to talk about, did this age very well? What did we think about it as far as a Halo project? And then also, as a quote-unquote movie, as people now watch it, we probably have some positives and negatives to go over, but I definitely agree. I'm perfectly fine with maybe breaking it down into either each part or maybe, 2 parts at a time.
Yeah, so, we're introduced to this character, and this is clearly it's not the Spartan school, which I think I had assumed going into it. So you get these characters, brand new original characters who are very uninteresting. Lots of pretty basic backstory, if you can call it that, for most of them. Our main character, whose name I literally just read and I forgot already, Lasky, he is, pretty clearly gone through, he's the typical, what's the word I'm looking for? Like legacy character, right? Like his brother was a really decorated soldier. It sounds like his mom was also very decorated, who I believe is the character in the show, right? Is that his mom, or did I miss that?
No, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Did they ever really say? I don't know if I wasn't paying attention, but I think it was.
I think it's one of those things where you might overthink it.
They call all the women are also sir. Maybe this is a non-gendered society in the Halo universe. I didn't know that, but that was a little confusing as well. Everybody was referred to as sir, but yeah. So in the first half, I sent you that meme, Eric, right? And they had us in the first half. Not gonna lie, I was pretty worried because it's pretty boring, and Master Chief doesn't show up until later, which we'll talk about, and these characters are about as shallow as the kiddie pool, and I was like, oh no, where is this going to go? The action was also like okay, like it ends up being like a paintball match, so it kind of like removes any type of drama there. So I don't know. What were your early thoughts about this? If you remember what it was like 13 years ago, and then what was it like when you rewatched it?
Yeah, and then quick correction, maybe it wasn't the mom because I started researching. No. I was like, no, that's a different name.
Okay. The way they interacted, it seemed like maybe that was her, and that's how he got in.
Yeah, so I think this back and forth proves one thing, which is that the first 2.5 parts of this, maybe you could argue the first 3 parts are pretty uninteresting. The movie, so when it came out as a series, you're trying to give it time. You're also understanding when you go into this is not like a big budget project. So I would look at this more of like a passion project. And when looking at it through those lens, I was willing to give it a little bit more time to cook. As a film, you're essentially looking at over the first hour of an hour and a half film, or I should say almost an hour of an hour and a half film, being very by the numbers, low risk, and it's not doing a lot of world building. Like, you are learning more about the characters who are uninteresting. It's hard to put on a young cast already, and the fact that they're essentially just going through training for half of this film, I don't think it serves them very well. When, again, a lot of the world isn't being built. It's almost assuming that you know of Halo and you're going to get enough references to stay engaged. That works for big nerds that are fans of the genre or the medium, but not for it being a cohesive plot structure. So back then, I remembered that when shit goes off in part 3 and the attack happens, we are going to talk about this freely. I don't know if we mentioned that. This is also something not a lot of people probably have seen. If you're getting this message now, I would tell you this is about the part you want to watch, because all the cool shit happens when this attack happens to these cadets. It gets pretty crazy, actually. A lot of moving parts. But I do remember that back in 2012 that it really picked up and that the end was the best part. And rewatching it, I definitely struggled to get through the first part, even though I had seen it before. But the second half was just as sweet as watching it the first time, especially when comparing it to the modern day Halo television show, which I went ahead and watched a little bit of, so we'll get to that in a bit. But Phil, honestly, again, I think most people that watch this have the same opinion. Had us in the first half, not gonna lie. Second half is a banger.
Yeah, it's just really slowly paced there in the first half. Like you said, it's basically all training montage, and not a good training montage either. Like, this guy's not good at what he does, even though we are told that, his family has this incredible legacy. And like you said, it's really, really tough because these are young actors and actresses. It is a huge IP. Halo 4, I think, was the first one. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eric. The first non-Bungie Halo. Yeah, this was so Halo
343
4 was the first 343 Halo, or it may have been ODST. But it was like right in that era where we were transitioning away from Bungie. So people probably had a lot of issues. Here's the problem with at least how this begins, because again, as we were alluding to it, this ends very strong. I don't think we still have not seen anything better live action Halo than Halo Landfall, which came out in 2012, I think. And that was the one that was like fan made, if I remember correctly. And if you look that up, you'll remember just scrolling through the video. We haven't gotten anything that good as far as live action since then. So the fact that those came out, I don't know if this came out in the same year. It was uploaded by Bungie May 8th, 2012. So that probably didn't help, but I just remember around this time, us not being excited for Halo 4. And this also could have coincided with us transitioning away from online gaming for a little bit. You know, we went about 5-6 years without doing anything like that. And I don't even really remember being that excited for Halo 4. Halo 4, I believe, is the one where it looks like you're going to be like fighting against Master Chief, but then when that fight finally does happen, they just end up being it's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe thing. So yeah, so again, putting a lot on this cast is a little unfair. But if you're going to attach the Halo name for it, then there's going to be very lofty expectations. So I mean, you tell me, or did you have any connection up until maybe Silva and Lasky have that like conversation right before the attack? There's no really emotional depth whatsoever to any of these characters until that moment right before shit hits the fan.
No, 100%. And I mean, they do enough character building to make the deaths in the second half not feel like they tugged at your heartstring or like you felt the loss of the character, but they worked in the sense of the shock value. It wasn't like I didn't give a damn about this character at all. It was, you know, these characters weren't very fleshed out, but I still felt like when some of these characters are dying in that second half, when this attack from the Covenant is happening, you know, it was definitely like I didn't think they were going to do that. Or maybe the amount of cadets that are killed in the second half, because when that attack happens, I mean, Phil, I'm curious what your thought was, but that's one of people's favorite things is the depiction of the Covenant, and then of course, Master Chief. I mean, those are the two biggest things. So to say that these kids are maybe the weakest part of the whole thing makes a lot of sense when the strengths are the things that tie you back to the game.
Yeah, so let's not really dwell on the boring any longer, because again, right before, so they have that conversation, you know, he's about to get that medical discharge, which, hey, collect those benefits, homie. But unfortunately, that's not the route he goes.
That's right, that Halo FMLA.
Exactly. So, and then everything goes to shit, and that's when visually things really step up. And it just seems like it would have been much smarter to kind of even that stuff out. Like, put some cool stuff here. They allude to a faction that I don't think we've ever heard of in terms of Halo, like the Resistance or something along those lines. And again, we are Halo fans, but we aren't deep into the Halo lore like that, so I didn't know anything like that. I guess the parts where they're discovering like that found footage is kind of cool, but it's so infrequent and it's surrounded by so much bleh that you can't really, you don't really focus on it enough. But shit goes down, right? The ODSTs coming in, super cool. And the best decision that Forward Unto Dawn made, and this ultimately led me to probably giving it a little bit of a higher score than it deserves, is atmospheric-wise, the presentation of the Covenant is on point. Because remember, this is 2012, and I don't know about you, I've never been like afraid of any type of alien design, or we were just really desensitized by it by the time the 4th, 5th Halo game came around. So I think the first time you see a Covenant soldier, what's the one with the why am I blanking on the one with the sword? What's that type of Covenant called? Oh my gosh.
Jackals?
No, Jackals are the ones with the shields. Oh my gosh, Briar's gonna kill us.
Elites?
Elites. Yeah. The first time you see an elite, that's cool. A hunter, the first time you encounter a hunter in Halo 1, terrifying. But by the time this comes around, you're totally desensitized by it. You're not really scared of them. But the cloak and the indivisible liberty and justice for all, the invisible elite is so cool. And I think they really captured the essence of how terrifying that situation would be, because again, in the game, you don't really care about it. You're just going through, you're killing them, you're sticking them with a plasma grenade, you're moving on. Here, they're defenseless, they're taking people out, and all you see is this sword. And remember, this is the first time they don't know what the Covenant is. They, for this entire time, they thought they were gonna fight with, against other people, and then this terrifying monster shows up. So, well, let's just start there, Eric. The presentation of the Elite was spot on, and I was like, all right, finally, here we go. About time.
Yeah, we get all of the kind of the greatest hits we mentioned the Jackals, the Hunters. We get a lot of that in here, and I just really like the environment. They use the darkness to their benefit. Again, this is probably a low budget project. I'd be curious to see how much they spent on this, and if that information is easily accessible. But I can't imagine that it was very much. And again, it just felt like, especially in that latter half, it felt like it came from a place of love for the character, for the franchise. And I think they did a great job, in that second half specifically. And the fact that, you talked about the environment, or kind of the horror structure of these aliens attacking. I mean, that works because they really do have consequences. This wasn't like a Master Chief rallies all the kids to beat the aliens. That's such a network TV show move to happen. That doesn't happen here. There are consequences. There is death.
When he's like, which one of you is the best shot? And the kid's like, you probably.
They were probably their most charming, the funniest, the most sympathetic when Master Chief is around. So I understand for the project that it was, you probably couldn't go all out with Master Chief. You mentioned sprinkling some stuff throughout. I understand maybe why not. I just wish there was more interesting stuff leading up to it that would have really bumped up this score. And I think it's reception overall, because when Breyer asked us to do this, this is a fair late to the party selection, but it's probably one of our lower on the pop culture totem pole. If you're not a Halo fan, you probably never heard of this, where we've done, Top Gun and Pretty Woman. Those are movies that are timeless, people know of. This is probably lower on the totem pole, but I still think it fits the bill, because this is an iconic moment.
We did watch Lego Ninjago once, Eric.
You didn't have to bring that up. And you know that. You didn't have to say that. I can, spoiler, I can confirm this movie better than Lego Ninjago, for
Agreed.
sure. For sure.
Agreed.
But no, I just think that, for the time that it came out, I think they did a really good job, everything considered. And again, that second half specifically with Master Chief, if you get Master Chief wrong, it doesn't work. It's just boring, which is the worst thing a movie can be. But it really is going to be an issue with fans if you don't get Master Chief right. So the fact that they got him right, I think, gives this movie a lot of grace. And I'd be very curious if Breyer has the same nostalgia I had prior to about a week ago when I watched it for the second time, or if this is a rewatch. Maybe him and others put this on and they enjoy it like that. I don't know. Now that I've watched it a second time, about a decade apart, I don't know if this has a lot of rewatchability other than to start it from the middle or see clips of the second half.
Yeah, and like I said, if I had watched this episodically, I don't know that I would have continued. However, because they were released in 15-minute segments, I'd probably be like, oh yeah, okay, the Halo Forward Unto Dawn came out this week. I'll check it out and see what it is, and probably word of mouth would have spread and been like, oh, the third episode it finally picks up. So yeah, they, like you said, the portrayal of Master Chief, they got it just right. They really present him as a certifiable badass and a leader without it being corny or cheesy, because he really, they are fully reliant upon him. And I even love the point where, the Easter egg where he's like, I'm going to need your ammo. You're taking your weapons from your colleagues. That was a really nice touch. But the part with the pistol, really, really good. So the dependability on Chief to stay alive was really, really smart. Yeah, the part then we get to the portion with the warthog. Again, atmosphere in the woods, so cool. I don't know that we've really, and granted, it's been a while since I played a Halo game, but I don't remember anything atmospheric like that similar in the games. Really, I mean, I just remember like really it being kind of, I know this is going to simplify it, but like a lot of mindless open areas shooting. And that part, like that really is really cool. Like, present the Covenant as like a terrifying enemy, which they would be if you were actually in that situation. So again, as we transition, Eric, to the scene in the woods, what were your thoughts on that? Because again, putting the jackals in the tree line, super smart. Love that.
Yeah, so when you play the game is really bright and vibrant, and I think that is part of the appeal. I mean, any major Halo map that I remember that didn't take place in like some type of building or with walls, like if it was outdoors, you're thinking green grass. Like, you are thinking colors, vibrancy,
you can always
all of
see
that.
the Halo ring.
Always,
Yep.
always. Blue sky, all of that. So this was nice because, again, and you know, we've watched a lot of shows, especially older shows, use the dark to their advantage to cover up some of those things that would require special effects and other elements. So they were able to use that to their advantage, and I thought that was really smart. Again, this is definitely more than what a traditional web series would probably get because it's a big property, but it's definitely not anything, I think, amazing where you would say, oh, this wasn't done very well considering the budget. I think the wood scene specifically shows how they were able to go beyond that budget and really make something that felt unique and somewhat special, with a franchise that to that point had already had a lot of iterations, a lot of versions, a lot of sequels. And the fact that it offered anything new, I think is a win.
And to answer your earlier question, the budget was about $10 million. So, pretty solid.
Yeah.
For
most of
$10
that
million.
went to the second half for sure.
Yeah, definitely. and animating, I think the Elite specifically probably.
Specifically,
all the
yeah.
money. Talking about 13 years ago. So, yeah, so that section's really good. Then you get the reveal of the Hunter, which, again, the first time you see a Hunter in Halo, it's like a really scary experience, and they once again really nailed that. But compare and contrast, when you meet a Hunter the first time in the Halo game, again, big open area, you can kind of dodge and run around. And this, you really get the sense that if this thing catches us, like, we are screwed. And then you get probably the best emotional beat in the movie when Silva dies, and I'll give credit to Tom Green here. Definitely a really good performance, really honed in on those emotions. So want to give credit where credit is due. If we're going to give them shit for not great performances, we do have to give them praise when it was pretty solid. So not Oscar level acting, but it didn't need to be. It just needed to be believable, and we had spent enough time with the character to know that there was a real bond and obviously a romantic relationship there. So really solid. And again, another moment where they demonstrate that yes, Chief is like this. He is a trained killing machine, but he is still a person. Like, I remember the one part that really stood out to me was when he's on comms and he's like, I'm not leaving these people. Like, I'm not going to leave them behind. And they're like the only people that were left that survived here. He shows emotion. He gives condolences. And those are things that, like, we don't see in the Halo games. Like, all these soldiers are just dying all over the place. We don't really get a moment where he's like, I'm so sorry, like, just showing that empathy towards his fellow soldier. So, again, really nice moment, and wanted to make sure we gave Tom and Anna Popplewell, who plays Silva, their kudos, because, yeah, it was a good moment.
Yeah.
Sad,
yeah.
Good moment.
Sad, but yeah, no, it was good. Again, can't stress enough that if you're never gonna watch this, definitely at least look up some clips to really see some of the really high moments. And if you're a Halo fan, I do think it's still at least worth giving this a shot. And Phil, for a game that we had no interest in playing that year, before we kind of talk about the reception and our scores for this game, I think, this game struggled a lot, and it kind of needed this advertisement of Halo from the Switch. We were in that transition from Bungie to 343, and then there were so many games that came out in the single player space, but it also had competition in multiplayer. So you had like Far Cry 3 around this time, Dishonored, Mass Effect 3, Telltale's The Walking Dead, Max Payne 3, Sleeping Dogs, Call of Duty Black Ops 2.
Stop.
Stop the count.
That's a nasty lineup. Oh my god.
Yeah.
And this game reviewed well.
Yeah.
Halo 4 reviewed very well.
Assassin's Creed 3, Resident Evil 6, Prototype 2.
Oh, Resident Evil 6 sucked, but...
Oh, Prototype 2 and The Darkness 2 came out in the same year. That's kind of interesting. I didn't know that.
We've talked about The Darkness 2. You want to go back and... Well, The Darkness. If you
The
want to
Darkness.
listen to that episode.
Yeah. And
And
Prototype. Yeah.
Both games probably better than Halo 4, at least in our opinion.
Yeah. We even gave Dishonored a chance. That was a disappointment, but...
Yeah, that had you written all over it, and if you didn't like it, then...
I just did not. But with that being said, Phil, maybe let's talk a little bit about the reception, our scores for this. We'll do a quick game of more like this. I don't know what this could possibly look like. And then, I'll talk about the comparison to the first 2 episodes of Paramount's Halo.
IGN gave Halo 4 a 9.8.
I'm telling you, at the time, Phil,
Man.
At the time,
We were definitely in a minority for this.
No, but listen, and I'm going to explain it with my score. At the time, this was so fucking cool. Like, I cannot stress
I'm
it
talking
enough.
about the game. Halo 4, the game, got a 9.8.
The game.
Yeah.
A 9.8?
Yeah.
IGN's been sus that long?
Yep.
Okay.
9.8.
9.8's wild.
Yeah. I'm sure I, checked out Halo 4, because I'm pretty sure I was still working at GameStop. But
For sure.
Again,
I remember playing it. I don't remember playing it
too.
long.
No.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that's distracted the hell out of me. So, anyway, Halo 4, I actually forgot to look up. Does this have a Rotten Tomato score? I'm sure it does.
No. I've got it up. So,
Okay.
69%. You're a fucking child, dude. You're an absolute child.
Nice.
69% audience score.
Hell yeah.
On Rotten Tomatoes.
Hell yeah.
Only one review, which was not positive. On IMDb, though, a 6.7 average, which is respectable. And on Letterboxd, a 3.0 flat average. So, again, very respectable. And I think, again, with time, this movie does not age well. I do think it was at its peak when it first came out. Phil, you had your first... Stop. You've had your first view of this here in 2025. So what is your final opinion and your score?
Yeah, so again, in the first half, I was like, oh boy, Briar's going to be really upset with us. This is really boring. These characters aren't very good. But again, when we get to probably I would say maybe 70% mark, which is way too late for it to get interesting, to be fair, I was fully committed. I was sitting upright, ready to see what was going to happen. And I gave this a 3.5. And I think as a project in full, I don't think it's really better than a 3.25. But I gave it that extra 0.5 just because, again, atmospherically and Master Chief being really, really cool and the action being really solid, I gave it the extra half-star bump. So that's where I landed. But again, I think when you judge it as a project just kind of in full, a 3 really is kind of like where it belongs, probably.
And that's exactly where I landed. When I saw this movie for the first time, I really enjoyed it. And when there were talks of us possibly doing this episode, I had to think, like, what would I give that movie now? And it's crazy to say, but I was like, yeah, that was a 3.5. 3.5. I remember the first half being boring, second half, great. After watching it, I just feel a 3 is appropriate. Like, it's something I would recommend at the end of the day. But, like, again, I don't think this has a lot of rewatchability. And if it was on, unless it's the good part, I'm not going to be watching it either.
You're like, tell me to come back in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, like, and then I might be busy on other things at that point. So I'd be very curious. I think this was a great recommendation. I would just be very curious for people who have fond memories of it, when it was their last time watching it, and how they would perceive it today. Those would be probably the biggest things that I would be curious about. On the other front, we will talk about the fact that this was a clear recipe for disaster to show what a TV series could possibly look like. So the fact that we still never got a Halo movie is crazy. And before we talk about the TV structure and my experience with Paramount's Halo, which we have talked about before, but we had never seen, Phil, this more like list is crazy. I don't think I want to do this, but I'm going to do it for entertainment value only, okay?
Here we go.
This is not fair. It's just not right. Phil, I'm just going to rattle them off quick.
Get comfortable.
This is not even going to be clip worthy. So I'm just going to Halo Forward Unto Dawn or any of these films. I'm just going to rattle off.
Is Interstellar on this list?
I'm going to rattle off the top 10 movies that are on here. Okay. Dune.
Dude.
Avatar Way of Water.
Well, I haven't seen Avatar Way of Water.
That's okay. Avatar.
Probably Avatar. Even I can't.
The first Avengers.
Avengers.
For some reason, there's 3 separate Star Wars films. Episode 3.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Rogue One.
Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie.
Alien or Aliens.
I haven't seen them, but probably Aliens, I'm sure.
Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
I also haven't seen a Terminator movie. So...
Oh! That's crazy. Yeah, and then District 9's on here. Shout out District 9.
Really enjoyed District 9. Yeah, we're never going to get District 10, but
never.
Enjoyed District 9.
The
What a
first
weird
Transformers.
Movie. The first Transformers is fun.
Goated.
It's stupid, but it's fun.
Man of Steel.
Man of Steel.
Yeah, you thought a little bit too hard.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, that's all of them.
Is there other video game recommendations
So
on there?
IMDb is more like this is just other Halo projects. So I had to go to Letterboxd.
Okay.
Video game? Great question. I don't.
Okay,
I don't know.
Here's a similar. I got my similar films might be a little bit different. I think it may be done off of maybe similar movies that I've already seen, because Battle for LA is on here, and that movie fucking sucked. I would absolutely watch this before Battle for LA.
I think Battle for LA is on here for me. It's just like
that
low.
movie
Yeah, it's really low.
I haven't rated that. Let me rate that right now at 2.
It's crazy.
Sucked.
Dude, Titan AE, that's such a callback. Have you ever seen that?
I don't think so. The Tomorrow War, I'd probably watch
know.
this before the Tomorrow War. Would you rather watch this? Oh yeah, you like
Tomorrow
the Tomorrow
War.
War.
I like
Would you
the
rather
Tomorrow
watch
War.
this or the new Chris Pratt, Millie Bobby Brown movie?
I'd rather watch this.
Okay.
Although I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be good.
Edge of Tomorrow is on my list. Come on.
Yeah. After Earth. Ooh.
The Creator.
Tough. Yeah. Anyway.
Didn't you see The Creator?
I did.
Yeah.
Also a 3. I'd watch The Creator before this, though.
Okay.
Yeah, so
anyway, how did your... You logged into Paramount Plus for the first... If Paramount Plus were a physical item...
Yes. That's exactly what happened.
Deep into the...
I didn't even know I had it, if I'm being honest with you. I do. And so I watched it, and I knew immediately the movie was a 3. And I was like, I want to add a little bit more discussion to the dialogue that we're having, a little bit more of a viewpoint of Halo as a medium in pop culture, in film and TV. So obviously, I saw the web series, aka the film, and then I wanted to see the infamous Paramount series and film. It's bad. It's just not very good. I mentioned network television earlier as stuff they would do. That's what the Halo series was doing. Not only is it very generic by the numbers, it doesn't really feel like it's expanding the world very much. It feels like we're just seeing a Master Chief cosplay. the reason it also feels like that is because this motherfucker takes off his helmet in episode 1. I knew his helmet came off. Everybody knows that. In the first episode? No way, man. And he has his helmet off most of the second episode. It's just not interesting. I don't like the
Did you see his
dialogue.
butt in the first episode, or is that later?
I might have missed the butt. I think that's later.
Okay.
He does have sex, I think, at some point. So
that's disgusting. Where?
I wish I at least got some entertainment value in my watch. I will be fair to mention I was also doing stuff in my garage when I watched this. So I was very much multitasking.
Better use of your time, probably.
But nothing, it should be noted, I don't normally multitask through stuff, so going into something multitasking already puts me at a disadvantage. But, Phil, nothing caught my eye the way that, like, the last 30 minutes of Forward Unto Dawn did in the Halo series. Like, anytime there was anything of note action-wise, sure, it looks a little bit better because it's 2025, and this came out in the 2020s or whatever, but it's nothing great. Now I want to know what the budget for the Halo series was, because if Forward Unto Dawn did this with 10 million and most of that went into the good part, the final, hour of this film, I don't know what that budget for the Paramount show was, but it could not have warranted what we get. And again, it's just very uninspiring, and I don't really need to watch more to understand why it didn't succeed. If you're one of the Halo truthers and you want to tell me that, it gets really good at episode 7, good for you. Enjoy your 2 seasons.
I don't know that there are those people.
I don't think so either.
Most people, most shows will have their defenders, but I have never once heard somebody stand up, like the meme where the guy's standing up. Like, I enjoy the Halo show. That doesn't exist. And the budget, if you're wondering, is probably somewhere between $100 to $200 million is what it says on Wikipedia.
Oh my God, my balls just came into my throat. That was crazy. All right, that's insane. Yeah, no, that makes no sense. Makes no sense to me. So watching the first 2 episodes, guys, I would not recommend it. Wasn't a good time. And I would, to end the more like this comparison, I'd much rather watch this twice than to watch either of those first 2 episodes of the Halo series. So I can now finally say I have something of an opinion on it. I immediately knew, though, that this was probably not going to be my jam. And most people felt the same way because it died pretty quickly, after the first season. So, Briar, congratulations, my friend. You are one of one.
Go over our rankings.
One of two. One of two. Yeah. Rankings. Forward Until Dawn
Late to the party
is towards the
rankings.
bottom.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing. It's 3 out of 5 for all of the shit that I get is a good movie to me. It is between Adventures of Tintin and it is above Real Steel.
You bastard.
I may have done that to hurt you a little bit. An argument could be made. It could be between Real Steel and Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's at number 26.
Okay. We're literally basically we're the same. I'm at 25, right behind Real Steel, and before Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I gave that a 3.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that low. That's crazy. What did I give it? I gave it 3.5. Okay. I mean, rating wise, it's not much different. But Pinocchio's at 16 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I mean, you're not.
It's a fine movie, but also Pinocchio as a character does not interest me.
Yeah.
Outside of the Shrek universe, which is the best Pinocchio, and I will not hear any back talk or
any slander,
arguments otherwise.
we won't be taking any
no feedback
on this
comments closed.
So with that being said, I think we got a hefty amount of discussion about this particular project. Again, congratulations, Briar. Phil,
off to a good
I
start.
think this is a great place to wrap up, and if you like this episode, join our Patreon. We'll talk about that in a second. The rest of the month, though, is going to be episodes just like this. So, Phil, tell them where they can find us.
Yeah, you can find everything you need Wait For It podcast related in the Linktree link in the show notes of this episode. You can keep up with us on social media, the most important places being Instagram, TikTok, our growing Discord page. We upload on YouTube now, and We are streaming every other week for now, but might be adding more shows and more streams to that very, very soon. So make sure you stay tuned. You can support the show a couple of different ways. First, head over to your podcast player of choice. Leave us a 5-star review, thumbs up, A+, whatever it is over there. Also on YouTube, you know the drill. Like, share, subscribe. All of that is very beneficial as well. And share the content with your friends. Let people know that you're listening. Let us know that you're listening. All of that is so, so helpful. We thank you all for all of that. But like I mentioned in the beginning, if you want to be part of Patreon month, if you want to be part of the secret Discord, and maybe a fun PowerPoint party coming soon, Eric will let you know how you can join and get some really fun benefits.
Yeah, so all the free stuff is great, but we are starting to do a little bit extra for those supporting us on Patreon. And to our patrons like Briar, Stefan, T3 Cato, Corey from The World Is My Burrito, and Retro, AV Rewind, Vintage, and Bridget, they are supporting us on that platform, and in exchange, getting early access behind-the-scenes looks to episodes like this one. We are doing things like vlogs over there, just kind of dipping our toes and giving a little bit more behind-the-scenes access into what we do in the convention scene. And we now introduced Patreon month, which may not be the only time we do it this year. We might have multiple iterations of that. So you have a chance to join and give us suggestions that could end up being an episode just like this one. If you can't do that, though, that is fine. All of the other stuff is much appreciated, and we really thrive on that support. So thank you guys very much for doing so. With that being said, my name is Mr. Eric Almighty. That is my co-host, Phil the Filipino. And please do not forget, we release new episodes every Wednesday on the podcast with bonus content on platforms like TikTok and Twitch. And all you got to do is wait for it.
This is the Wait For It podcast.